He also tried, some very different tactics. One of the things that he funded was a super PAC called RBG PAC. He was the only funder, and this refers to the late Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And this super PAC basically ran a bunch of ads saying that Donald Trump's position on abortion wasn't particularly different than Ruth Bader Ginsburg's. And obviously she was a ardent defender of reproductive rights. And I think some people felt like that was a little bit misleading advertising. But he tried several different kinds of things. One of the things that he paid for was there were just sort of different kinds of ads that he would run attacking Kamala Harris or promoting Donald Trump. He really spent a lot on digital and really just kind of got people. I think the key thing that he did was that he helped boost voter registration for Republicans in a lot of these states, which is one of the keys to them winning.
So when we think about just the total spend, when we think about advertisements for the Trump campaign, just how crucial was Elon Musk's capital?
Well, if you think about it, the Trump campaign raised about $477 million from the start of the cycle to the end. That was less than half the $1.2 billion that Kamala Harris's campaign raised. He was always at a big financial disadvantage. He completely outsourced his ground game to super PACs. And Musk kind of taking that over and spending so much, he wasn't the only group that spent on turnout, but the fact that he took that over, that basically, left Trump with much more money to spend on television and places where campaigns can really be, get much more bang for their buck than other kinds of committees.
Bill, how game-changing is this for Republicans moving forward, given that they have, I don't want to say unlimited, but when you're worth more than $350 billion and dropping close to $300 million in an election cycle is truly no big deal. How much of a game changer is this for Republicans moving forward?
It's, Republicans have faced a financial disadvantage against Democrats in the last, in the midterms, and, I think this goes all the way back to 2016, really. Even Barack Obama was like a much better fundraiser than, say, John McCain in 2008, although that was for different reasons. But, if having that one big donor, on the one hand, it does, level the playing field for Republicans. Musk has shown that he was willing to spend. I mean, I remember the original figure that we were hearing was that he was going to spend $180 million. We ended up with, almost $100 million more than that. So he's definitely willing to dig deep. And, it's the question is, though, that, the big problem that Republicans really have is with small dollar donors and, the sort of the grassroots donors. And the problem with a party that gets too top heavy is it can lose touch with its base, and that could really hurt Republicans if Donald Trump built this huge small dollar donor fundraising network. It was off this year. I mean, he didn't raise nearly as much money from small dollar donors. He was much more dependent on big donors like Musk, and that's got to be worrying for the Republican Party.